Yes, YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be covering how you can train inside the gym for maximum results. In other words, I'm going to break down progressive overload extremely simply so that you can take these tips, you can implement them into your training, you can actually start to progress and see good results from what you're doing inside the gym. So if you're a fella, you've been consistent for a few months, but you've just not been seeing the results that you want, or you've not been seeing any results at all, you're not progressing. I just want to preface this video and say that everything that I cover in this video is from what I've learned and it's from my own experience over the past 8 years of training. So let's dive in, peeps. Now then, to kick things off, what is progressive overload? Now, I feel like a lot of you watching this video will have a decent grasp of what it is, but I'm just going to break it down very simply and in a little bit more detail so that you gain a deeper understanding of what it is and how you can actually apply it within your training. So, in essence, progressive overload simply just means doing a little bit more over time. And doing this consistently means you are giving your body a reason to adapt, you're giving your body a reason to grow. Essentially, you're forcing it to grow by placing it under novel stimulus, which fundamentally just means that stimulus it hasn't experienced before. For example, the typical ones that you would see, doing more reps than you did in the previous session, novel stimulus, lifting more weight than you did in the previous session, novel stimulus, or doing more sets to accumulate more quality volume, novel stimulus. Now, these three are the main ones that people focus on. Execution is one that often gets overlooked. People think that upping the weight and doing more reps and doing more sets is great. That means I'm doing more than I did last session, so I must be progressing. Wrong. If you do more reps, or you increase the weight, or you do more sets, but that comes at the expense of your execution, so your form, how you perform those reps, that is a regression. Remember, all of you watching this video, you will essentially be training as bodybuilders. You're training for maximum aesthetics. You want to build as much muscle as you possibly can from what you're doing. So execution, your accuracy when performing reps and how you perform those reps is key. It's at the top of the food chain. This order that I've put them in, execution, reps, weight and sets, that is the order that I think you should follow when applying progressive overload. So if you're a beginner to the gym, there's probably quite a bit of room for you to improve with your execution. So before you decide to do loads more reps and up the weight and do more sets, focus on improving your form week to week. Something else you need to bear in mind is that improvements with your form, improvements with your technique means that you're going to be imposing more tension on the target area. Although the weight may be the same and you're performing the same number of reps, if each rep that you perform is more effective than in the previous session, you're going to be progressing, you're going to be moving forward. Once your execution is pretty much nailed, feel free to crack on and do as many reps as possible and up the weight and do more sets. But you need to ensure that when you do make those jumps up, your form remains the same. You need to standardize your form, and that is absolutely key. These three elements, reps, weight, and sets, they are all in the same sort of branch. So they all link to total load, so load stimulus. When your execution is nailed, this is the aim of the game. So we want to prioritize increasing the load, whether that's done through doing more reps, upping the weight, or doing more sets. Just to break load down and make it a little bit simpler for you, let's say in the first session you lifted 100 kilos for 10 reps. That total load, the weight times the number of reps, would mean that you've lifted 1,000 kilograms total load. So reps times sets equals total load. Next week, you up the weight to 115, but you actually do one less rep. However, because you've upped the weight, your total load lifted is actually 1,035 kilos. So as you can see, even though you've lifted less reps, because you've upped the weight, you've lifted more total load. So that would be a progression, provided your form is the same as it was the week before. Now, the main issues for most people, and this makes it a little bit frustrating, you go into the gym, you train hard, but because you've got no plan, because you're chasing a pump, essentially, you are like a blind man in a maze. You've got no structure, you've got no clue where you're headed, you've got no clue that if what you're doing is actually going to work. Guessing is not the way forward. You can train like an absolute monster. If you're not repeating the same lifts and you've got no plan and you've got no structure and you're just wandering around the gym willy-nilly, you're not going to see the results that you should be seeing. Remember that you can't improve what you don't measure. Guesswork is not the way forward. It never has been and it never will be. How do we actually apply progressive overload? This is progressive overload. Number one, nice and simple, plan, track, progress. So you need to have a plan that you're following. You need to be repeating the same exercises week in, week out, so that you can track your progress. You can actually see if you're moving forward by doing more reps or lifting more weight or by improving your form. And then you need to be heading into every single session trying to progress. This progression is the aim of the game. We need to be doing more than we did in the previous session. And if you can do that on a consistent basis, granted, you're not going to progress every single session, but over a period of, let's say, 6 months, if you progress in 75% of your sessions, you're going to see great results. Small wins compound over time, and that applies to progressive overload too. Recently, I've been whipping out 1.25 kilo plates for a deadlift where I'm doing over 160 kilos for reps. Like that 1 kilo plate on each side is progression. It's more than I did the week before, even if it's only a couple of kilos. Number 2, treat all lifts equal. Don't mean to sound like Martin Luther King when I'm saying that, or some sort of equality activist. Although I am, I do support equality. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Treat all lifts equal. I feel like a lot of people will focus heavily on compound lifts. They go inside the gym, they're doing the deadlifts, they're doing the squats, and then they come to their isolations and they're a little bit slumped, thinking, oh, like, I've done the hard stuff, it's okay, now we'll take it a little bit easier on the isolation exercises. You're going to see just as much growth from the isolations as you do from the compounds. Any movement that you can track and you can progressively overload is going to contribute to your growth. So if you're going all in on half of your exercises and you're slacking on the other half, you're not going to see great results from what you're doing. So go all in on every exercise, treat isolations just as you treat your compound lifts. Did just touch on this one very briefly, so small wins. When you're aiming to progress the weight, you do not need to be jumping up 10, 20 kilos every single session. When you're moving up in the reps, you do not need to be doing an extra 5, 8 reps every single session. Small wins compound over time and lead to massive progression. So aim for small progressions consistently. Last but not least for this section, so you need to manage your fatigue, you also need to manage your form. So as I mentioned before, if your form breaks down as a result of trying to do more reps or trying to increase the weight, that is a regression. You're moving backwards, not forwards. Standardize your form, make sure every single rep is the exact same. This is one of the beauties of recording your sets. If you record a set from start to finish, you're going to be able to see very clearly if your form is the same in the first rep as it is in the last rep. Granted, when you start to struggle and muscles begin to fatigue, your reps will slow down, but your form should remain the same. Same range of motion, same sort of tempo, apart from on the concentric when you're squeezing the muscle, but the negative should be the same, range of motion should be the same, so your form must remain the same. Last but far from least, we've got form and filming. So as I mentioned before very briefly, if your form breaks down as a result of doing more reps or adding more weight to your lift, that is a regression. That's you moving backwards. For us to progress week on week, our form needs to be standardized. So our reps should be looking the exact same. Granted, the later on you get into a set when you're fatigued physically and mentally and systemically, your reps will slow down a little bit on the concentric, on the positive when you're contracting the muscle, but your range of motion should be the exact same, the speed of the negative should be the exact same, and that's how we can accurately track progress. So then, how do we actually know if it's working? How do we know if we're doing it right? How do we know if we're applying progressive overload? So first of all, you will be stronger in the gym. Now, you will notice this through lifting more weights, but this is firstly going to be noticed through comparing lifts week to week, comparing the data that you're gathering week to week. If you look at week 1 and you look at week 12 and your bench press has gone up 10 kilos and you're doing an extra 4 reps and your form has improved a tiny bit, clearly you've made a lot of progress. But if you aren't tracking and you're not logging your lifts, you're not really going to know if you've progressed. Or you may have a rough idea, but you're not going to be fully sure. So comparing lifts, comparing data, you will be getting stronger over time. And then you will see improvements with your physique, whether that's losing a little bit of body fat and looking a little bit more defined, you built a little bit more muscle, or your top line is looking a little bit more defined. The longer you spend applying progressive overload and the longer you spend comparing your lifts and comparing your data and the longer you spend trying to push those numbers up, the greater the difference you're going to see. Once you've got your plan and you've started to track, rinse and repeat. That's all it takes. It's really simple, it's not complicated, but you need to be on top of logging and tracking your data and you need to be following a workout plan. Do the same exercises, do the same sessions, aim for steady progressions, be consistent in the long term, and that will grant you unbelievable results. I can guarantee it. Just like it has done for me, just like it has done for many of my clients. So that's going to wrap up the video, people. I hope that's broken down progressive overload for you to a point where you fully understand it, you can program it for yourself to allow you to start seeing good results from what you're doing inside the gym. If you found this video helpful, please drop me a like, drop me a sub, drop me a comment with any other topics you want me to cover in the fitness bracket. And if you want a done-for-you training program that applies all of this perfectly, drop a comment saying the word plan and I'll send it over to you. That's going to wrap up for this video, people. Peace.